All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. It is that time of the week, folks. My key games for this upcoming weekend in the world of college football. All of my big games this weekend are on Saturday, and I want to start off in the Big 12 as you're going to have the sixth ranked Sooners out of Oklahoma traveling to take on the Kansas Jayhawks. Oklahoma comes into this contest favored by 9 points, and they're looking to keep on rolling as they're the last undefeated team in the Big 12. Quarterback Dylan Gabriel is definitely in the Heisman conversation for how he's played, especially, with what Oklahoma was able to do last Saturday to hold off UCF. And then I look at this Oklahoma defense first with linebacker Danny Stutzman, and then Gentry Williams and company in that secondary. Now, Kansas is a tricky team because Kansas, they're going to give you everything that they can that you can handle for 60 minutes on both, especially on offense. You look at quarterback Jason Bean and running back Devin Neal, but is their defense going to be enough? Are they going to have enough defense to slow down Oklahoma in this one? I don't think so. And because of that, I'm going to take the Sooners by a touchdown on the road, 38-31. Now, moving to the SEC in Jacksonville, you're going to have the top ranked Georgia Bulldogs clashing with their rivals in the Florida Gators. Georgia comes into this contest favored by 14 and a half points, but are they ripe for the pickings without tight end Brock Bowers? And I say this because Georgia has gotten off to some slow starts this year. And, teams are looking to get them, and we want to see how this Georgia offense looks against a quality opponent without Brock Bowers. The onus is going to be on the running game with Dijon Edwards. And I'm looking at this defense too, led by Smell Munden, and then of course Tyke Smith and company in that secondary. The Dogs still have the top-ranked defense in the SEC. Kirby Smart is, second to none in regards to coaching up a defense. And let's see how much he's going to throw at this Gators offense. Graham Mertz has been solid at quarterback for Florida, but I think the onus is going to be on the run game for the Gators with Montrell Johnson and Trevor Etienne, along with wide receiver Ricky Pearsall. Now, Florida defensively only has 2 interceptions so far this season, and this is going to have to change if the Gators are going to go out there and pull off the upset over the Dogs. Now, you look at this contest, and Georgia is beatable, but Florida is going to have to play a perfect game, meaning they can't turn the ball over. I think they're going to have a good mix of run and pass to keep this Georgia defense somewhat off balance. They're going to have to win the field position battle. They're going to have to win the turnover battle. They themselves cannot turn the ball over. And I think what Florida's going to need to do, they're going to need to shorten the game. They're going to have to run the ball, keep drives going, and when they get inside the Georgia 25, they've got to score. They can't settle for field goals. They have to find a way to keep the pressure on Georgia. Easier said than done. This is why Georgia has not lost in so long. The Gators will be game, but it's not enough to knock off the defending champs on Saturday. And because of that, I'm going to take Georgia 27-17. Now, back in the Big 12, you got BYU traveling to Austin to take on the seventh ranked Texas Longhorns. Texas is another team, big time favorites by 19 points over Brigham Young. But we got to see how Texas looks without Quinn Ewers. This is going to be Malik Murphy at quarterback. I think what Texas is going to try to do, they're going to try to lean on their running game with Jonathan Brooks. And it's going to be interesting to see if this BYU defense is able to take that run game away from Texas and make Malik Murphy go out there and beat him. We got to wait and see. Now, BYU, they do have 2 wins so far as members of the Big 12, but all of those wins came in Provo. They've yet to win a conference game on the road. You've got the veteran quarterback Kedon Slavis, and then on top of that, you have an opportunistic Cougars defense, which has already forced 11 interceptions by opposing quarterbacks this season. BYU comes in as a huge underdog. People are expecting Texas to sleepwalk and cakewalk to the win. I'm going upset here. I'm going to take BYU on the road by the score of 31-27. Now, a huge one in the Pac 12 is you got the eighth ranked Ducks of Oregon traveling to Rice Eccles in Salt Lake City to take on the 13th ranked Utes of Utah. The Ducks come into this contest favored by 6.5 points. And this is an important contest here because you got two teams, one loss in the conference, one loss overall, and they're both looking to hang around rather in that Pac-12 championship race. You look at Bo Nix. He's definitely in the Heisman conversation as far as what he's done at quarterback for Oregon, and then the talent around him on offense with Bucky Irving and Jordan James, and then of course wide receiver Troy Franklin. This Ducks defense can get after you. 28 sacks so far. They know how to tighten things in the red zone, and unlike last week when Utah escaped Los Angeles with that win over USC, I think they're going to try to put more pressure on Utah quarterback Bryson Barnes. The Utes, they kept it simple last week. They out physicaled USC with their run game with Jaquindon Jackson and, of course, Bryson Barnes. That was a difference. But can this Utes defense step up once again? Jonah Ellis has 10 sacks so far this season. He's probably going to be a first rounder in next spring's NFL draft. And he, as well as his line mates, have to try to keep the pressure on Bo Nix. Easier said than done. Oregon is arguably the best one-loss team in the nation. I still think they have a legit shot to get to the college football playoff. Utah is trying to make it three consecutive Pac-12 championships, but it's going to be tough, especially without Cam Rising in a game like this. And I'm going to take the Ducks on the road by the score of 34-20. Now, in the ACC, you're going to have 20th ranked Duke traveling to take on 18th ranked Louisville. The Cardinals come into this contest favored by 4.5 points, and they're hopeful that the week off after suffering their first defeat of the year to Pitt will allow them to get back on track. Jack Plummer has been up and down at quarterback for the Cardinals, but you look at this run game with Jawar Jordan and, of course, wide receiver Jamari Thrash on the outside. Now, linebacker TJ Quinn. And then you've got Ashton Gelati on that defensive line rushing the passer. Can they get to the Duke quarterbacks? More than likely, I don't think we're going to see Riley Leonard on Saturday. He aggravated that ankle injury in the loss to Florida State, which means you can expect another heavy dose of Henry Beal in the fourth. Now, Duke is game. I'll tell you like that. Duke is like, in order to beat Duke, you got to go out there and pack a lunch. And Florida State figured that out after they fell into that early hole last week at home. But I don't think the road is going to be kind to the Blue Devils on Saturday. And I'm going to take Louisville to get back on track by the score of 26-20. Now, in the Mid American, it's first place on the line in the MAC East as you have Miami of Ohio traveling to take on the Bobcats of Ohio. And for the Redhawks, you look at quarterback Brett Gabbert. What can he do against this Ohio defense, which is ranked fourth in the nation? You've also got wide receiver Gage Lavardane. What is he going to be able to do against this opportunistic Ohio defense? 22 sacks so far by Miami of Ohio. So can they slow down this Ohio offense? We got to wait and see. But I look at the defense of Ohio in this game. Only two teams have reached 20 points against them this season. You look at linebacker Bryce Houston, 10 interceptions so far by Ohio. And I think that's going to be enough to overcome the up and down play of their quarterback, Curtis Rourke. Now, with that said, the first team, the 20, more than likely will win this game. I know that Ohio is favored by 7.5, and I'm going to take the under, and I'm going to take the Bobcats to win by the score of 20-17. Now, in the American, you got 22nd ranked Tulane traveling to Houston to take on Rice. Now, the Green Wave come into this contest favored by 10.5 points. Both of these teams have what it takes to win the American, but I think Tulane is a step above everybody else in that league. You look at veteran quarterback Michael Pratt, and then you look at running back Makai Hughes. And, he's basically taken over for Tyjai Spears, who's in the NFL now. You still got a quality wide receiver in Lawrence Keys the third. Defensively, 21 sacks so far for the Green Wave. And then keep an eye out for linebacker Jesus Machado. Lance Robinson in that secondary. Tulane, no pun intended, but they just keep coming at you in waves on both sides of the ball with what they can do. Will that defense be able to get to Rice quarterback JT Daniels and company come Saturday? I believe so. And because of that, I'm going to take Tulane on the road by the score of 38-20. Now, in the Mountain West, you've got two teams that are looking to hang around in the conference championship race, as Wyoming will travel to the Smurf turf to take on Boise State. Now, the Broncos are favored by 5 points at home, but what are we going to get from their offense? It's been an up and down year for quarterback Taylor Green. What is he going to do? Can Boise State get their run game going, and can they get something going defensively to try to slow down Wyoming and especially running back Harrison Whaley? I don't think so, and because of that, I'm going to take Wyoming on the road by the score of 30-24. Now, back in the SEC on Saturday night, you got the 21st ranked Volunteers out of Tennessee traveling to Lexington to take on the Kentucky Wildcats. Tennessee comes into this contest favored by 3.5 points. This is a game right here. I know that both teams have two losses in the league, but the loser, any chance that they're going to have of winning the SEC East will completely go out of the window with a loss here. I mean, they're hanging on a thread now, both of them anyway. But, Joe Milton and company, they're looking to bounce back after losing to Alabama this past Saturday. Remember, Tennessee at one point was up 20-7. They were actually up 20-7 at the half before the Tide just shut them out in the second half. And I think this offense led by Joe Milton's got to play better. You got a defense that has 28 sacks if you're Tennessee. So you're facing a quarterback for Kentucky and Devin Leary who's been up and down, and you got to try to expose that and get a turnover or two to make life easier for your starting quarterback. Now, for Kentucky, they got to try to get back on track after they've lost their last two. They've got to establish their running game with Ray Davis. Plain and simple. Slow this thing down. I know Tennessee's a very up tempo offense. Try to keep their offense on the sideline. It's easier said than done. And because of that, I'm going to take the Volunteers on the road by the score of 31-20. Now, first place in the Sun Belt West is going to be on the line when Troy travels to take on Texas State. Now, the Troy Trojans are favored by 6.5 points on the road in this one. You look at Gunnar Watson, one of the better quarterbacks in the Sun Belt for Troy. Also, you got talent on the offensive side of the ball with running back Kamani Vidal as well as wide receiver Jabray Barber. But on the flip side for Texas State, TJ Finley at quarterback. You've got Joey Herbert at running back, and then Brian Holloway on the defensive side of the ball. And you have a Texas State defense that already this season has accumulated 20 sacks. Troy's favorite in this one, but I'm going to go with Texas State at home by the score of 31-24. Now, the big one in the Big Ten is you got the third-ranked Buckeyes out of Ohio State traveling to Madison to take on the Wisconsin Badgers. Wisconsin comes into this contest as a 14.5 point underdog at home. Of course, Luke Fickell, their first-year head coach, was a player once upon a time at Ohio State, and he was part of their Rose Bowl team during the 1996 season. But for the Buckeyes, too much talent. You look at this team, they're going to be operating near or at full strength in this contest. They're getting some key guys back, especially on the offensive side of the ball. Kyle McCord, the young quarterback, continues to get better as the season progresses, as I predicted. And then you look at wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr. What can you say? He is the best player in the nation. Too much talent for Ohio State, led by linebacker Tommy Eichenberg on defense. Like I said, the Buckeyes are favored big in this contest. Wisconsin's going to be game. They're going to put up a fight, but Ohio State is in a league of their own compared to Wisconsin. Thus, I'm going to take the Buckeyes on the road by the score of 38-17. Now, back in the Pac-12 on Saturday night, you got the 11th ranked Oregon State Beavers traveling to Tucson to take on the Arizona State Wildcats. Now, Oregon State comes into this contest favored by a field goal, but you got an Arizona State team, pardon me, an Arizona team that's flying high. They're fresh off of their bye, but the week before that, they went to Pullman and destroyed Washington State. This team is for real. You look at linebacker Jacob Manu. You also look at running back Jonah Coleman. But there's so much talent on Oregon State. DJU at quarterback, Damian Martinez at running back, Silas Bolden at wide receiver, and then on the defensive side of the ball, you've got linebacker Easton Mascarenas Arnold, and you have a Beavers defense that has 22 sacks so far. But Arizona is a tough out, and I think Oregon State runs into a buzzsaw on Saturday night. That's why I'm going to take the Wildcats at home by the score of 31-20. to 27. And finally, finishing off things in the Mountain West, you've got UNLV traveling to take on Fresno State. And, it's a battle of two teams that have what it takes to win the Mountain West. But UNLV has been one of the biggest turnarounds and best feel good stories of this college football season. They're 6-1 under former Missouri head coach Barry Odom, and the Rebels are for real. Now, can wide receiver Ricky White do something against this Fresno defense? We've got to wait and see. Also, keep an eye out for UNLV linebacker Jackson Woodard. But I look at the Bulldogs, they're home. There's so much talent for this team for Jeff Tedford. You got Mikey Keene at quarterback, Malik Sherrod at running back, Eric Brooks at wide receiver. And I think that Fresno State will do what it takes to get back on track. Thus, I'm going to take the Bulldogs at home by the score of 31-24. So, folks, those are my key games for this weekend in the world of college football. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.